Thanks, Mr. Chair. I appreciate all of our witnesses being here and just walking us through hopefully what is the final steps of the Grocery Code of Conduct coming into force. But I have to say, Mr. Nenshi, I'm really surprised with your testimony saying that the Grocery Code of Conduct will not lower grocery prices. About 2 years ago at this very time, the Finance Minister made a very grand announcement to the press gallery that he is committed to lower grocery prices by Thanksgiving at that time, Thanksgiving 2023, by 5 very poignant initiatives. And one of those 5 was the Grocery Code of Conduct that he promised Canadians would lower food prices. Well, in fact, we're 2 years later. Food inflation in Canada is 40% higher than the United States. We are the only G7 country where food inflation has increased 4 straight months. And we have food inflation now 50% higher than the target. So I am surprised that the Finance Minister would make such a claim that the Grocery Code of Conduct is going to lower food prices when clearly, as a result of your testimony and testimony from other stakeholders, that just isn't the case. And I just want you to explain why the government would make a claim that this is going to lower food prices when it was never intended to be that. That certainly seems to be some disconnect from what the code is and what the government is claiming it will do.
Well, the code was made for better practices through different vendor suppliers across Canada. It was never meant to negotiate pricing or talk about pricing. A lot goes beyond price: commodity, labor, freight, tariffs, exchange rates. So for us, the code was not meant to be. It's just to make a better level playing field for everybody that works in that industry.
And I appreciate that comment. It kind of leads me to my next question for Ms. Maines-Corrado at Walmart. And Ms. Maines-Corrado, I know you weren't here 2 years ago, but we had the President and CEO of Walmart at that time actually say that there are elements of the Grocery Code of Conduct which could actually make the playing field unlevel and actually increase costs on retailers, which would then increase costs on consumers. Would you share Mr. Nenshi's opinion that there's no elements of the Grocery Code of Conduct that will actually lower prices for consumers?
I agree that the code, as it's drafted in final form, was not intended to, nor does the setup actually support impact on pricing. So yes, I agree. It will not impact pricing.
Ms. Maines-Corrado, does Walmart still have concerns? Is one of the reasons that you haven't signed on to the Grocery Code of Conduct is there still concerns that there could be elements of the code which would actually increase prices on food for consumers, or have those concerns been alleviated in the interim?
So our concerns were alleviated in the principles of the code, which we agreed to last year. And with respect to the remaining documentation, it was the governance and dispute resolution model. So we are not of the view at this stage that the code will impact pricing. It's relating to fairness, transparency, and principles about the interactions between suppliers and retailers, not about pricing.
Thank you. Mr. Alsop, I wanted to thank you for Empire for signing on to the code. But I also wanted to ask you the same question. Would you agree with the assessment of your colleagues that there are no specific elements of the Grocery Code of Conduct which will ensure in one lever or another that retailers will be lowering food prices for consumers?
I do agree with the statements made. Transparency and predictability support a more efficient supply chain. So when there's fewer disputes, clearer terms, more stable relationships, that reduces frictional costs over time, creates a more resilient system that can better manage volatility and keep food moving efficiently to Canadians. That's the benefit. But I agree, no direct impact on price.
Thank you. And maybe I'll ask just to build on that a little bit. Mr. Nenshi, for example, I think once Canadians hear that the Grocery Code of Conduct has been enacted and later in January, as a result of the communications, as misleading as it is from the Liberal government, that all of a sudden grocery prices are going to start to go down, are you concerned as a retailer that when that doesn't happen in February, March, and April, that the retailers will be facing the blame as a result of the Liberal government saying, hey, once the grocery code of conduct is in, you're going to see grocery prices go down. And who do you think is going to get blamed when that doesn't happen? Even though it is no doing of your own, it is misleading communications directly by the Liberal government.
Well, we'll continue to do what we do best every day, try to bring the best possible value and price to our members. What we know about the code, it's more like, I'm repeating myself, but it's more fair play, a level playing field to be fair with everybody, make a more robust industry. But at Costco, we strive every day to give you the best value to our members, and that concept, that wholesale club concept works well for us. So we believe that that trust is still there.
I appreciate, I think all of us agree the grocery code of conduct is an important tool, but I think clearly there needs to be some communication and outreach by the Liberal government to inform Canadians that truly the grocery code of conduct is not going to lower food prices for consumers and come clean with consumers, that that's not what this was intended for, and that's not the result that they should be seeing despite their claims by the finance minister. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for being here. I'll begin with Mr. Alsup. First, I will say thank you to Empire for leading from the retail sector in pushing for the code initially, or agreeing to the push for the code. I'm not sure what the proper phraseology is there. And again, your leadership now. Since the time of July of last year, when there was agreement from all retailers to sign on to the principles, and now, in your annual process of renegotiating for the upcoming season, for the upcoming year, have you changed any practices? You mentioned in your opening testimony that you've reviewed some of the terms, you've clarified, but from an overall perspective, have you changed your practices in dealing with your vendors?
Thank you for the question. And yeah, we continuously are assessing, monitoring, and reviewing. And it's similar to how we all can, manage our expenses in life. We're constantly reviewing emerging expenses, changes in the environment, the industry, and we're constantly calibrating. And so to say this year, did anything change? Every year things change, right? But they were done with fairness and under the principles which we work with our suppliers, which are also reflected in the code.
Mr. Nenshi, same question. Have you changed any of your annual cycle with your suppliers?
We, in our code of ethics, respect our supplier has been there for decades since the inception of our company, and we strive with that. Our buying teams are brought up from within, so they start at the hourly level, then they get promoted within. And that practice of respecting our supplier and do the right thing every day with our business community is imperative to our business model.
Thank you. I have had discussions with vendors, and neither Empire nor Costco have come up from a major change, particularly in cyclical timing from the annual process. I'm going to go to Walmart, and I'll be direct here. And I don't want my comments or questions to be construed in any way that I'm negative on this code coming to the finish line, because I'm not. It's just the opposite. However, what is concerning are reports that some retailers are actually changing the timing of the renegotiation to get out ahead of January 1st. And so I'm going to ask you to comment and not only change the timing, but actually be far more aggressive this year as per other years in their asks of their vendors as they move into. So I'll ask, Madam, if you could respond on behalf of Walmart. Has Walmart changed its timing? Because that is what I have heard. And Walmart is not the only retailer.
So fairness, transparency, and honesty are part of the core values of Walmart. That hasn't changed in the past year, and it will continue on in the future. I'm not aware that those allegations were directed at Walmart, and we've continued to operate last year as we will next year in the spirit of fairness and transparency.
My question is more specifically on the timing of an annual renewal process.
I'm not aware of any specific change to that timing.
Okay. One of the triggers that really brought this whole issue to the fore was capital investments made by retailers, and then the process of kind of pushing them back on the value chain several years ago. And Walmart was one of them. And in your opening comments, you did refer to a $6.5 billion investment that you're looking. And I think, if that brings lower prices for consumers and greater transparency, I think we're all in favor of that. Who's going to pay for that?
Walmart is investing the $6.5 billion in Canada as part of our growth.
So would that come up in your discussions with vendors?
To the extent that there are any fees, they're all designed and implemented in a way that is fair and transparent. There'd be reasonable notice, and any fees would be part of an ongoing commercial negotiation with our suppliers.
And so I'll dig down just a little bit further then. So just from a practices perspective, the development of the code, have you found it advantageous from Walmart to both maintain your commitment to keep prices low for consumers and also increase transparency and fairness with your relationships with vendors?
So again, I don't believe the code goes to pricing. The code goes to relationships.
Right.
And the principles of fairness and transparency that are key to the code are likewise key to our core values as a company, and therefore are very much complementary.
Great. Thank you. So what I will ask you to do, you did mention in response to my earlier question that you were not aware of any change in the timing of Walmart's annual cycle. If you go back, because I believe your position is general counsel, if you become aware, and if you check back with your colleagues and you are aware, could you table a response with the committee that Walmart has changed their timing with vendors and their applications? And please do not misconstrue my comments of any kind of negative feedback on the development of this code. I fully support the code, and I look forward to its implementation from all parties throughout the whole value chain. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just have one question, and I'm going to cede my time over to my colleague, Mr. Rep. Ms. Proud, thanks again for all the work that you've done on shepherding this to where you have. But I do think this is a legitimate concern with the Grocery Code of Conduct that 2 years ago, the Minister of Finance said he has 5 distinct tools he's going to be using to lower food prices. And if food prices aren't lowered, he is going to take additional action. Those were his words. One of those tools was to tell Canadians that once the Grocery Code of Conduct is implemented, food prices will be lowered. We've heard from every single stakeholder that just isn't the case, including yourself, that that's not the case. I am worried that this is going to erode confidence in the Grocery Code of Conduct when it's implemented, that Canadians are going to be expecting to see lower food prices, and it's just not going to happen. Have you had conversations with the government to communicate this fact to Canadians that this is not what the Grocery Code of Conduct was intended to be, to ensure that there is confidence within the code, not only from your members, but from consumers?
So one of the key roles of the office is to ensure that people are aware of what the code is and what isn't. And so we in the office have been communicating as much as we can about the code and through the media and through other means, including our website. And we do have government officials that sit on our board of directors as observers. And so I think a lot of clarifications are needed with regards to the code, not just about whether it impacts food pricing, but how the code works generally.
I'll pass my time to Mr. App.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks. Good to see you again. I want to pick up on the point from your testimony around confidentiality. The need for confidentiality obviously comes from the risk of intimidation and things like that. Just for the record, I know the vendors that I communicate with are not just producers or smaller producers with a size difference. A number of these vendors actually are dealing in 9 figures of sales volume. And would you agree that that is also a factor, even for companies that deal in the hundreds of millions of dollars?
Absolutely. And I have heard from virtually every company that I have met with concerns about confidentiality. It was the same situation in the UK, that nobody spoke to the adjudicator in her first 6 months to a year in office when they started the code, because they were concerned about confidentiality. And that is why we have put in place in the office processes by which people can report issues to us in confidence, where their names will never be released, but we can still do our job to work with companies to address issues related to the code.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to an issue I raised in the earlier round of testimony, that I have had conversations with vendors right now that just, and again, I'm so glad to see that the finishing line is so close. But I have had allegations of intensity of negotiations and changes in timing from multiple retailers because of the January 1st deadline. Is any of that coming into your office?
I've heard anecdotally concerns within the sector of behaviors that may not be code compliant. We take all that information in, whether companies are members or not, to see what's going on in the environment. When We have members that come on board. Part of our job in the office is to talk to them about how they are adapting their processes around the code, similar to questions that they've had today, and I will do the same thing.
So the avenue, let's say if some of those came into the office on behalf of either producers or food manufacturers, would your first, I believe, if I understand correctly, the step number one is education. So would you go back to the individual retailers, or would you go work through the RCC, the Retail Council of Canada? What would be your thought process in addressing allegations that maybe affect more than one retailer?
Absolutely. I mean, with our process, if the office is hearing from, whether it's an individual or an association, bringing an issue of concern related to the code to us, the first thing we do is to see if we can verify whether that's a code-related issue, because there's lots of things like pricing that don't fall under the code. We would gather as much information as we could on what exactly the issue is. Then our job, and this is my day job, is to really work with the other company, so the company at question, and to talk to them about behaviors, processes, or policies where we feel there might be a concern with regards to the code. At that stage, we're not opining as to code violation, no code violation. It's really about education to see if companies are aware of what's going on, if they have a good rationale for that, whether there's a code-related issue, and to start building the narrative and the discussion to try and then affect change if it really is a code issue.
Thank you very much. Thank you.